It's a comedy Christmas with me, Alex Belfield, here on your favourite local radio station. And I'm so thrilled to talk to a man who I can't believe we've not spoken before, but Ed Byrne, nice to see you.
Thank you very much. Very nice to see you.
Do you know the good thing about you?
Oh, this is going to be good.
You're funny.
Oh, there we go. It's always weird. You never know exactly what someone's going to say. You know what the good thing about you is? You're not on TV very often. You're never sure when someone's going to insult you. I seem to have been spending my days recently defending my own show. For some reason, just lately, I've had a couple of people come up to me after a show while everyone else has gone, oh, it's great, really enjoyed it. And you don't really, it's nice when people say they enjoy it, but you don't remember them as well as the people who go, yeah, I have to say, I had a bit of a problem with this bit that you did. And then they don't let you argue with them.
The problem with your show, it's a bit whimsical, isn't it?
Oh, and pedantic. It tends to be a mixture of the two. But at the moment, the show I'm doing right now is partly is about class. A lot of it's about getting married, and I do have a bit of a pop at wags at one point as well.
And who can blame you, because they are annoying?
Yeah, but I had these women come up to me afterwards and complain that my bit about wags was misogynistic and sexist, whereas my point was that the idea of aspiring, that these days the idea of aspiring to be identified in terms of what the person you're going out with does for a living, I felt my point is it's quite a feminist point, in that we're going back to the 30s with this idea of women being applauded for who their husband is. And I felt that they just didn't get it. But the problem is people come up to you and they argue with you, and then they don't actually let you say it. Because their thing is, well, we've just listened to you talk for 75 minutes. Now it's your turn to listen to us talk. But if you're playing to 1,000 people, if everyone gets to come up and have their say, then you'd never get anything else done.
And is there a side of you that is a rebel? Do you try and put stuff in to press people's buttons in both positive ways and negative ways? Because that's really what comedians do, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of us, we have a tendency to enjoy making the unpalatable palatable, or vice versa, and we like the idea of just being able to walk maybe just a little bit of a narrow line between crowd pleasing and people will go, oh, that went a bit far, didn't it? And you do like to just now and again just have a little bit of a shove where people are going, oh, I wouldn't have expected the likes of him to say such a thing. So I like to have just a few bits in the show that sort of take a relatively unpalatable subject and look at it from another perspective. But I think so long as your logic is sound, whereas people might exhibit a knee-jerk reaction to certain subjects, I think so long as your logic is sound, you can still argue that the joke is good. The problem is, when you make a joke about something, people automatically assume that you're belittling that subject. But you can actually be making a good point using humour. But people have a tendency to go, no, he just did a joke about Nazis, or he just did a joke about, whatever. Therefore, he's making light of the subject. He just did a joke about murder. That's him making fun of murder. Well, it's not really what I'm trying to do.
And as for you as the TV star, that's a far different thing, because you seem to be the guy who's invited on all the chat shows and all the quiz shows, and it's far more glamorous than having to go round local crappy theatres and entertain the punters who are then going to harass you at the stage door afterwards.
Yes, there is, in theory, there's more glamour in doing TV. But TV is just a means to an end, really. You just do that to then hopefully sell more tickets to the live shows. It's doing the live shows is where I'm at my happiest, because you don't really... Whereas you may have people coming up to you and arguing with you afterwards, you don't have people literally telling you what to do. And you don't have anyone editing you, and you don't have anyone directing you. You're just going to do your thing. And that's quite gratifying thing to do.
And I suppose the other problem with TV is once it's said, it's gone, isn't it? You can't do it again.
Well, to a certain extent, it's getting worse now. It's weird. It got better because it used to be if you did something on TV, everybody saw it, and that was that. But then people forget about it 6 months later, and you can kind of do it again in your live show. But now everything you say goes on YouTube, and that means it just lives on, and that makes it harder to once you've done a joke on TV for you to do it ever again. And what's really annoying with YouTube is you'll do the same bit of material maybe on a show in Australia and a show in the States and a show in New Zealand and maybe a show in Ireland and a show in England, and you'll do a show in various different territories, and you'll do the same material in each one because it's different people watching. But then they all end up on YouTube, and it just looks like you just trot out the same material every time you do a TV show, and that makes you look like a hack.
And I noticed you use the word hack there, and I love that word because it's the word that you don't want to ever be accused of in this business, isn't it?
Yeah, well, hack is it's kind of I think it's an American term, and it basically, in comic terms, it refers to people who do stuff that's unoriginal and are sort of straight down the line and one note. And certain subject material now is considered hack, such as airplanes, the differences between men and women, the differences between cats and dogs. I'm not saying that I won't talk about such things, but in general, people consider those, oh, I can't believe he's doing Star Trek material. That's really hack. But, but you can see Eddie Izzard do Star Trek material and you'd never call it hack because it's, incredibly original what he does. But, that's, I wanted to call my show in Edinburgh in 2004, I wanted to call it Return of the Hack. And my manager wouldn't let me. She says, you don't want to call it that. The press will just slag you off if you call it that. And the press slagged me off anyway. And I was,
And as for coming up with new material, how do you do that? It is incredibly difficult to have an original thought, isn't it? Because if you're having it, it's quite possible somebody else could have it as well.
I find the best thing to do it is to be... and the way I've been doing it lately is I've made my act very personal. And I'm just talking almost solely about things that have happened to me personally. And, I talk about, my wedding. I talk about how annoyed I get when you get into an argument with someone and then you think of the right thing to say the next day. I know we all do it to a certain extent, but I do it a lot. And I talk about, like this show, I talk a lot about how growing up we had this in-between thing of not being working class and not being middle class. And all these sorts of things. And I think the more personal you make it, then then it's just by dint of it being all about you, it's original, I guess, in a way.
But to do that, you have to have a life, which I don't, you see.
Yeah. Sometimes I look at my diary and I look at the things that my manager's put in, and I go to my manager, I go, Viv, I have to live a life of some sort in order to write jokes about it. At the end of the day, I'm gonna end up just doing jokes like, hey, you know what it's like when you're performing stand-up comedy? No, because that's all I know about now. That's all I've been doing. When you're staying in a hotel, that's like the only... That's why I think a lot of comedians do airplane material, because it's like, with a lot of them, if you're working constantly, it's the one thing that remains that you have in common with the rest of the world, is that you've both been on an aeroplane.
Help me with being a live stand-up. A, I think it's the most difficult job in the world because you can get booed off. I don't think there's another profession in the world where you would actually get told to clear off your rubbish. And B, you've got all these adoring fans, and then suddenly there you are in a bed and breakfast somewhere, eating an old crusty sandwich. It goes from one extreme to the other. How do you keep balanced with that?
Yeah, it's weird. It does feel like being a travelling salesman sometimes. And it's very odd when you do a gig and you've got 400 or 800 or 1,200 people, I only deal in 400 increments. Yeah. But you got that, a load of people, and they have a great show, and it's like, hey, and you can do an encore and all that kind of carry on, and then you go backstage, you get changed, you come out, the theatre's empty, and it's now 11 o'clock and the bars are all shut, and it's like, well, what do we do? I don't want to go to a nightclub. I'd rather just go to a bar. So let's go back to the hotel. Oh, order a cheese sandwich, and it's actually, yeah, you feel like a travelling salesman, and it's quite. It can be quite depressing at times. I don't, but when I go into, I have a tour manager who basically is a driver, and I have a support act. I have a guy called Ben Hurley from New Zealand who comes around with me, and a lot of time my wife will come as well, or Ben will be bring his fiance, or my tour manager will bring his wife, and all, so we have company. We feel like a little bit of a travelling circus, and that makes things a lot easier. Just having company, really.
And why did you decide to get married? Because you were a sex symbol, weren't you? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I should have enjoyed myself more if that was ever the case. I was running out of material. And I didn't want to be. It was either break up or get married, and I really didn't want to break up with this one. It was, it was going very well, and I had no idea. If I'd known how much material getting married would yield, I would have done it a long time ago. But yes, if I was to do something just to generate jokes, I think getting married was the perfect career move. But yeah, I got married for very simple, basic reasons of having fallen in love and decided I never wanted to be without her.
That's very old-fashioned, isn't it? It's not very cool.
I even talk in the show about the fact that I realised the day that we before we actually got married, but I realised we were already an old married couple, and it was the day of the earthquake. I don't remember that. It cracked a few chimney pots in Lincolnshire. It wasn't a big deal, but we just felt the ground shake just a little bit. We were just sitting in front of the TV, and I was saying, what you say to the person you're in love with when you can feel the ground upon which your house is built moving speaks volumes about the state of your relationship. And what I said to my now wife was, "Are you doing that?" Which I just thought, What an old married couple thing to say. We were definitely doing the right thing.
It's a trick if she could do it.
Yes, like she's going, yes, I'm moving tectonic plates just to annoy you while you're trying to watch House.
Does it help being able to communicate brilliantly? Because I noticed there's two different types of comedian now that are out there. There are those that seem to mumble and fumble their way through the act, and then there's kind of the clever lot and the eloquent lot, and those who kind of are quick and fast in the delivery. Did you ever consider a different style?
Yeah, I used to want to be like a sort of deadpan one-liner, sort of like Michael Redmond or the like, or Stephen Wright, as in the American one. But it just didn't work out that way. I didn't write jokes of that nature, and when I got on stage with nerves or whatever it was, I just was a bit more of a motor mouth. But I think very carefully about the wording. And what's great about stand-up is that you get to say the same thing again and again and again until it's perfect. And you just like every time you tell the same joke, you make it, you tweak it just that little bit, and you change this word, and so after you've been telling a joke for 3 or 4 months, it just, to my mind, it just becomes, the wording just gets just right. That's the way I work, and I enjoy it. And I sound on stage, I sound far more eloquent and far more erudite than I am in real life. Although I did just use the words eloquent and erudite there, which I think are quite good words. But on stage, you just get to constantly be improving on the exact wording that you use, and so you can end up sounding quite clever and sounding very eloquent. But just there, the point I was making there about like my girlfriend turning around and saying, "Yes, I'm moving tectonic plates while you're trying to watch House," having also just used the phrase, "Your house is built on." I used the word house there twice. Now, some people, if we were really sticklers, would say shouldn't use the word house on 2 different sentences like that, even if it's house the program and house the thing that you live in. Somebody would said, it would have been funny if you said ER, if you wanted to go with a medical drama rather than repeating that word.
And also, if you were on a Radio 4 quiz show, that wouldn't be good using the same word twice.
That would be technically repetition, wouldn't it? Yes.
Have you ever done that one?
No, I've not. I wouldn't mind doing it, actually. That's a bit of gas. Just a minute. Having been around for a while, I'm starting to get asked to do things that I hadn't been asked to do my whole career. Like in the last year or two, I've done like Have I Got News for You a couple of times. I'd never done that show before, so it's nice, to be asked to do stuff.
And that's a tricky one because you have to be funny but not too funny. You have to say something but not too much. It's a tricky old show, that, isn't it?
It is. You know what? It's actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, because it's one of those shows where it's been around that long, and Merton and Hislop are actually quite generous. Because they're getting paid a lot more than you and I, Now, when you're on that show, they're just like, you get paid your guest fee, but they're on a fortune per episode, and they're just happy for the show to be good, And if you make the show good, they're more than willing to give you the space to do so. The one thing they don't like, though, and they were telling me this, is if you go into actual bits of your act. It's one thing if you're funny, but it's quite obvious, and they can see the gear change when somebody actually starts doing their stand-up act whilst just sitting there. The kind of thing you do like on Des O'Connor or something like that. The kind of thing that's encouraged on certain chat shows. They go, "So Ed, have you been to the dentist lately?" "Yes, funny you should ask me that." But they really, it's one thing they really don't like, and Have I Got News for You. But they are more than happy for people to be funny.
And you've got the new DVD out as well. Congratulations on that. It's called Pedantic and Whimsical, and in it you are...
Pedantic and Whimsical, yes. That's better. That DVD's been out a little while now, but it's still available in all good, in fact, in only good shops, in only shops that have a really, really wide range of DVDs.
A rather extraordinarily large back catalogue, is that what you're saying?
That's essentially it, yeah. In fact, to be honest with you, you're better off trying to get it online. I think you won't even get it in your average DVD shop nowadays.
And talking of things online, have you got a website where people can find out where you're coming?
Yes, edbyrne.com. You can find all about the Different Class tour, which is the tour I'm doing at the moment.
Thank you very much for talking to me. It's great to meet you because you're one of those few things that can do the business no matter what you're on, and that's why you're popular and that's why you make a lot of money. Congratulations.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you.